25 secrets you probably didn't know about Kamado Tanjiro. You won't believe the last one. Because did you know that the scar on his face is more than just a birthmark? But before we get there, let's start with the fact that our boy Tanjiro is a killing machine, bagging over 25 demons in his arsenal, starting with the demons in the final selection exam to our very own Daddy Jackson. That's right, Daddy got clapped. This is terrifyingly ironic because the same guy who seems so down to earth he talks to birds doesn't hold back when dealing with Muzan's minions, which kinda reminds us of the goat Yoriichi. No wonder those earrings gave Muzan PTSD. Speaking of earrings, did you know that Tanjiro's earrings are a national trophy? Let me explain. The rising sun symbol on his earrings has a dark history behind it. The Japanese military committed several war crimes in the past, and the design resembles a rising sun, which was a symbol used by Japan during World War II. During this conflict, Japan became an Axis power, which led to the producers changing the design of his earrings. No wonder Daddy Jackson pooped his pants just by looking at him. But that's not as crazy as Tanjiro being banned from training. I know what you're thinking. How does a Demon Slayer get banned from the one thing that keeps him alive? In the Hashira training arc, my boy Tanjiro cuts through the challenges like a cake and clears every course he participates in. But he messes up by attacking Genya and breaking the rules. If you haven't seen that yet, you better go watch it, because I'm not dropping any spoilers. Although I would be spoiling the fun if I left out the fact that Tanjiro has a crazy sense of smell. Yeah, I know you know his sense of smell is crazy and all that, but I bet you it's crazier than you thought. Because did you know that Tanjiro could smell so good, he could recognize Muzan's scent 2 years after he picked it up in the Kamado family house after Muzan had dipped when he got home the following morning. His sense of smell is so crazy, he can smell your emotions and remember that one time when he was able to sense Shinobu's hatred for demons even when she tried her best to hide it. Somebody please nerf this guy. Probably a stuffy nose would do. But speaking of stuff, did you know that Tanjiro was supposed to be a ruthless killing machine? In the earlier concept design, Tanjiro did not have a scar or wear earrings, and he was built for the sole purpose of demon cheek clapping. The first character design was so twisted that the editor insisted they change his entire personality just so the series would attract the fans. And he said Tanjiro had to be a bright light in a dark world. Muzan would have really needed to watch his back with this one. I guess they didn't take out all the toughness when they redesigned him because Tanjiro has remarkably rough hands. And this isn't just due to Pipe Nose's training, but also because of the chores he had to do at home. Our boy was packing tons of charcoal just to sell to the locals. And this includes all the work he had to do at home because he had several responsibilities. Speaking of stuff, Tanjiro's sword is powerful. But did you know how powerful? As we all know, Haganezuka has a terrible hatred for people who break his sword. And we see this throughout the anime. But somehow, Tanjiro is still alive after breaking not one, but 3 swords. We all saw what he did to Muichiro after stopping his sword sharpening process. But everything works out well when Tanjiro gets a 4th sword, which is over 9,000 times more powerful than the previous swords combined. And it has something to do with fusing the hilt of Donut Man's sword and the blade from the goat Yoriichi, and I'm sure Haganezuka loved working on it. But wait, we've been lied to. We weren't told the full story behind Tanjiro's sword turning black. When the sword first turned black, Haganezuka was quite shocked because demon slayers who have their swords turned black get clapped too quickly, and most of them struggle to learn breathing styles. I guess Tanjiro doesn't speak that language, since he learned more than 2 breathing styles. But the truth about the Dark Sword is that the demon slayers who wield these swords are actually the most talented swordsmen in the anime. But it looks like they lack skill because they don't really fit in when it comes to learning regular breathing styles instead of the sun breathing they're designed to learn. My boy's suffering from success. But success is only a mirage, because the Demon Slayer mark has a mind of its own. It's a popular belief in Demon Slayer that once you unlock the mark, you're gonna die before 25, aside from Grandpa Yoriichi, of course. But the mark is not exactly a curse, but also a blessing. You see, Demon Slayers that unlock these marks use more of their powers at the expense of their own health. But Muzan said, nah, not today. And no, just no. I'm not spoiling that for you. But I'd be spoiling the fun if I didn't tell you that Tanjiro, despite having physical, mental, and nasal strength, has a vocal strength as weak as a feather in the wind. But nobody's perfect. Tanjiro was once the lead singer of a band called the Stylish Scruffy Democracy, and it was indeed scruffy. His voice was so bad, people got dizzy and threw up because of it, and to make things worse, he's tone deaf. So he wouldn't have known if he was hitting the right notes. You've probably noted that Tanjiro isn't good at fighting because he has plot armor and just wouldn't die. He's good at fighting because he's a prodigy now. I know, before you say main characters are prodigies, I have a long list of contrary opinions. In just 6 months, Tanjiro was better than Sabito, and he's the only demon slayer who can use 2 different breathing styles thanks to Yoriichi. But still, imagine getting killed by an obese demon that likes to hug itself. Pathetic. pathetic. And what's not pathetic is Tanjiro's name. If you look at his name in the Japanese kanji, the Tan stands for charcoal, the Ji stands for heel, and Ro translates to sun, which is literally what he was doing before he started packing up demons. Also, the meaning tied to his name is Sun, who controls both fire and water. Yeah, that's crazy. But what I'm about to tell you next is insane. Because did you know that Tanjiro was probably a Grim Reaper? Because he knew his dad was gonna die before anyone else knew. Tanjiro was the first person to find out that both his father and grandmother were on the verge of dying in the past, with his strong nose giving their mortality away. He also managed to inform another household in the village about a person in their family that was gonna die. Spooky. Now, spooky does not apply to Tanjiro's physical appearance, as he's only 5'5". But although he is short, he's still taller in comparison to Zenitsu and Inosuke. But let's not bring Hashira into the equation, because compared to Tengen, he looks like a matchstick. This matchstick was born on July 14th and is a Cancer. I would say the zodiac sign is pretty accurate, because Cancers are known to be emotional and nurturing. But it would shock you to know that Tanjiro is actually hated in real life. A lot of Japanese parents actually hate Tanjiro because of how popular he is. A study conducted in 2020 revealed that Japanese kids love Tanjiro more than their parents. It's pretty much understandable where all the hatred comes from. I think our boys should leave some kids for us.
What did he say?
Speaking of kids, Tanjiro is brutally honest just like one. He's so pure-hearted that he can't tell a lie and keep a straight face. And this has been shown multiple times to be true, and it's hilarious. And if a kid says something is true, you best believe it. Their words hit harder than a cannon. But what's even more hilarious is the fact that Tanjiro has a cannon-level forehead, and most of us would think he inherited it from his dad. But it was actually his mom, and her head was so hard, she knocked out a wild boar by headbutting it. That leaves me wondering, does he really need a sword with a head like that? It can chop wood, it can stun demons, and it definitely can headbutt people. I would not want to be on the receiving end of that head. Now, Tanjiro's head is naturally strong, and we know Tanjiro trains a lot, and I mean a lot, to the point where his body is so jacked, it makes Asta rethink his life choices. But after all that training, it would surprise you to know that Tanjiro is a very light sleeper. He's one of the first people who wakes up in the morning. He also opens his eyes with the slightest sound, which is quite an incredible feat for all the physical activity he does. But at least if his hands aren't getting groomed, his hair sure is. Tanjiro cuts his own hair, and the whole idea for this started when he protected Nezuko from Giyu after she just got turned. So he decided to keep the short hair and has been taking care of it ever since. Speaking of cutting things, he just can't seem to cut down on his love for Angelica sprouts, or as the Japanese would say, Terra no Mi. And this is really cute, because when these sprouts are on the table, his nose starts to twitch and he can barely keep his composure. And here I was thinking it was ramen. Now, a ramen lover would be all calm and follow the rules just like Naruto, but Tanjiro is a bit of a rebel, because in Kumetsu Academy, there's a particular dress code to be followed, and earrings on men is prohibited. But we know Tanjiro does not take them off, so he constantly violates the rules. But a particular character kept Tanjiro in check at the beginning of the anime, and our boy Tanjiro wouldn't be alive if not for a random character in the series. You see, in the first episode of the anime, Tanjiro traveled down to the village to sell charcoal, and this took way longer than expected. And by the time he was done, it had gotten dark. We all know once it gets dark, Muzan's little minions come out to play, because for some reason, they can't afford sunscreen. So he was about to go up the mountain when Mr. Saburo warned him not to go into the woods at night. Luckily for Tanjiro, he listened and slept at Saburo's house. So let's all thank the closet ninja Saburo for saving Tanjiro's life. And the crazy part about all this is if Tanjiro had decided to head home that night, probably we'd have the demon siblings instead of the demon slayers. And Giyu would just add another body to his trophy case. I'd be spoiling the fun if I didn't tell you Daddy Jackson was responsible for bringing out Tanjiro's inner rage. Muzan is the main antagonist of the series, and Yorichi is the one who bullies the antagonist. But during Tanjiro's first meeting with Muzan, he gets so angry that his veins pop out of his head. But Muzan gets scared and runs away after he sees the earrings on Tanjiro's ears. Talk about anger management. But before I bring you the last fact, did you know that Tanjiro hates being in debt? In the second episode of the anime, Tanjiro got a basket to carry Nezuko, but the farmer insisted that he take the withered basket free of charge. But Tanjiro wanted to pay for it, slapping the man's hand so hard he nearly broke it. And now there's one secret you definitely missed. Did you know that Tanjiro's scar changes shape? And no, I'm not talking about the Demon Slayer mark coming out during a battle. You see, from the very first episode till the hand demon throws Tanjiro against a tree, we notice there's a patch on the left side of his forehead. But in the 6th episode, it changes to a dark spiky patch that looks incomplete, and the scar seems to change as he gets more experience in battle, although it seems to shrink when he's not fighting. Now, one last secret. There's a rumor that if you don't subscribe, you'll feel a really painful headbutt in your sleep. In the meantime, check out this video. See you there, my friend.